All right, everybody, we're going to look at the second part for activity 124 in IED. And that means we're going to be looking at this shape and creating it and 3D modeling it and then dimensioning it on a drawing. So in order to do that, we first have to create a sketch. I could sketch the front plane, or maybe I could sketch on the top plane. I'm going to sketch on the top plane, then I'm basically drawing the bottom surface, and then I'm going to extrude it upwards. So just kind of keep in mind what you're doing. So I'm going to view normal sketch plane. If I look at this from the top view, it is 3.5 inches wide and 2.5 inches deep. So I'm going to create that rectangle. All right, so 3.5 wide and 2.5 deep. Hit the check mark. All right, and then I want to extrude that upwards. And the height, I know from previous experience, is 3 inches. And so there's my block of material to start with. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut into the top. You can kind of see, if I look over here, that it cuts in once to this level, and it cuts in another time down to this level. So I'm just going to actually create a rectangle to cut this first one. Then I'm going to cut a smaller rectangle out in the next one. So we'll start a new sketch on the top surface. View normal to sketch plane. And I'm going to draw a rectangle starting at this bottom corner and coming up. And that should be 2.5 by 2. That sketch is done. I'm going to extrude that surface. I want it to be cut into, so I'm going to do remove. And it should go by 0.5 inches. All right, there's my first cut. Next, I'm going to sketch another rectangle on this surface. Oops. All right, and my sketch is going to be a rectangle from that corner once again. This one is 2 inches by 1.5 inches. And I'm extruding that piece by removing 1 inch of depth. And again, if you want to see that, here's that distance is 2 blocks, so that's 1 inch. And then there's a circular hole right in the middle of this new smaller rectangle that I created. So I'm going to sketch on that surface. And I'm going to create a circle. And I'm just going to create a center point circle like that. It should be a 1 inch diameter. And then it should be centered in this rectangle. So I need to dimension from the center to this edge. Make sure that that is half the distance, which should be 1 inch. And then half the distance of this is going to be 3/4 of an inch, so 0.75. And then that one is done. And I can, oops, I went too fast. I can now extrude that circle, remove it, and I want to do, instead of blind, I want to do through all. That way it just goes all the way through. And there's my object. And zoom out a little bit. There we go. That's exactly what I was looking for. So I'm going to hit check mark. Now I'm going to create the drawing. When I create the drawing, use ANSI A-inch once again. Just wait for it to load. So again, when it comes up, I'll now have choices because I have another part in this workspace, but I'm going to choose this one that I just made. So I'm going to click on that. It's going to place the front view in a 1:2 scale, which is what I want. So I'm going to place that one here. And then you'll notice in the drawing sheet that I have back here that that is a front and top view. So I want to make sure to make a front and top view of this object. And then I'm going to also create an isometric. So now I need to dimension everything. Before I dimension though, so I'm going to escape and get out of my tools. I'm going to right click on that, go to show hidden lines, and that'll pop up my hidden lines. That's really helpful. I also want to make my center mark because I have a circle. So I'm going to click center mark and then click on the circle, and that'll create the little plus, the center mark in the middle. And I'm going to zoom in on that quite a bit. Then I'm going to go with a center line, and I'm going to click the top and the bottom and the left and the right to make that center line, or those center lines I should say. And I also want to do the same thing on here. So top middle to bottom middle. And there we go. All right, so I have all the marks that I need now. Now I can dimension. When I dimension this, if we start with the whole, we realize that we need to dimension the center. So I have to dimension from the right side to the center, that direction. Then I also need to measure from the bottom to the center, that direction. When I do that, I can start to say, you know what, maybe I just need to put all of my depth dimensions on here like that. So I'm going to go ahead and finish out the depth dimensions. Again, I'm going to use baseline dimensioning, which means I'm going to start from the same spot and measure each of these. So I'm starting from the bottom edge in this case. That definitely seems like a lot of things. Now that 2.5 moved on me a little bit. If I were to do that again, I might try to get it to snap to middle. But there we go. All right, so there's that. And then I also need to dimension the widths. Now I have a choice. I can dimension the widths here on this view, or I can do it here on that view. It's not really much of a difference, but since I dimensioned that circle, I might as well just kind of keep my dimensions going here in width. So I'm going to dimension that one. And finally, this one. Okay, and while there's a ton of stuff there, notice that I don't really need to do any of those dimensions down here because they're already placed up there. I do, however, need to click on the circle and make sure that I have a diameter dimension labeled there. So I'm going to do that. Down below, I need to dimension these distances. And once I have done those three height dimensions, I am done. I have fully dimensioned everything on this sheet.